Hi everyone, welcome back to OpenClaw Skills Review. I'm Paul, your host of this channel. Today I'm going to take you through a skill called the Family Grocery List. We're going to do an install and a demo to start. We're going to review it on ClawHub, and then we'll do the usual analysis in Codex and Claude Code and walk through the code ourselves to see if we see anything concerning. So for starters, normally you go to ClawHub, you type in Family Grocery List, do the search, the app will, or the skill will come up. You'll see it's right here. It's by this ADEYDAS. We'll dig into this person in a bit. And this is normally where you'd go to download the skill and to install it. I'm using OpenClaw, so I've actually got an instance of OpenClaw over here that we will use to install. So basically here, it's a little bit different. ClawHub's kind of built in, so I'll just type in Family Grocery List. I'll hit enter. You'll see that the same version will come up here. I'm going to click on it. It tells me that it's valid, and I'm going to click on install, and in it will go. Interestingly, this app I had previously installed, and the name is a little bit different. It was just Family Grocery. But anyway, we're going to go ahead. It's now running and installed. OpenClaw is named Hal, so we're going to ask Hal to help us set up. Hal, for the admin, you can set me up as just Paul. Say, yep, we want to use, you can use that directory, that shared path. So at this point, Al is walking through the MD files that we'll review a little bit later in more detail, and is basically setting up the default. The way this skill works is it creates, use a JSON file as a database, a very simple database. It'll store the names of the stores that you like to shop at, and then it'll prepare to create lists by store of the products that you want. It will also, if you want it to, it can confirm that the store has that product in stock. Local store is called my local grocery store. It's called Metro. Can you start a shopping list for me? Now I've got my OpenClaw window on the right, so you can sort of see the chat. You can see what he's doing there, and on the left-hand side, this is my Telegram view. So this is what I would be using when I'm at the store. So basically, he's saying, this is your current list. It's got it gives me a default grocery list for bread, eggs, cheese, apples, milk, and you'll see that it gives sort of like this date and time that things were added. And it'll give typically quantities as well if you ask for it. So total items, 5 unique items. It's giving a breakdown. So he's going ahead and doing a demonstration because I told him earlier we're going to do a demo. Kind of funny. You add barbecue sauce, mayonnaise, Caesar salad dressing, and say oat milk, just to give it something off the beaten path. So perfect. Paul wants to add barbecue sauce, Renee Caesar's salad dressing, and oat milk to his Metro shopping list based on our current setup. I can see that. Paul's the admin. Metro's his primary store. So here is his revised list. Not the most readable the way. I don't know why it's so thin. Nope, it's just thin. Interesting. Anyway, we've got, oh, because he was thinking, I guess. So milk, apples, chicken breast, eggs, barbecue sauce, Renee Caesar salad dressing, and oat milk, all added by Paul. And he's telling me that everything's updated and I've got my list. Please add a new store. I'd like to add CVS pharmacy. Don't worry about the address. Add tissue paper. Say toilet paper, a lot of paper, cough medicine, and some soda. Preferably Diet Pepsi. So here he's recognizing that I'm using that skill. He's now added the CVS pharmacy as a store option. Telling me everything's working just fine. So I'm going to say, can you share all of my grocery lists or all my store shopping lists, please? Have to be polite when you're talking to your OpenClaw. Now I've actually just set up a Telegram account for my wife and my daughter, so that the three of us are going to be sharing this app, but we're going to be testing it out for in real life over the next couple days, which will be fun, considering my wife has no interest in OpenClaw, but the grocery shopping list got her intrigued. Seems to be a lot of chatter here, sort of walking us through every possible thought process. I wonder if I can turn that off in my settings. I'll wait till it gives me the list. So here he has listed the current shopping list. He lists, oh, he's actually brought it up by store. He's saying the cheese I'm going to get at Walmart. Oh, I think that was just part of his default test list initially. So he's listed off the things that I'm going to get from Metro. And then he said, here it is. These are the items at Metro. And then this is the summary by store. Walmart, Whole Foods, Metro, and CVS Pharmacy. So he is creating the list. I think this should be more readable. He's telling me here what he's done. Thanks, Hal. I went shopping. Let's remove bread, eggs, cheese, apples, tissue paper. Please update my lists, shopping lists, and provide an updated list. Presumably a list by store, but we'll see what he does. So Metro, milk, chicken breast, barbecue sauce, Renee's, Caesar salad dressing, oat milk, CVS Pharmacy has the 3 items. And it's giving me a list of what's changed since the most recent update. That's not bad. Can you update the list to reflect that I need 4 packages of toilet paper and 2 cases of Diet Pepsi because I am severely addicted to Diet Pepsi. So let's watch him update and see if he adds the quantities. And he's updated and he's added quantities. So, pretty good. I'd say does what it said it did in the description, which we're going to review in a minute. And for the most part, I think this works. So let's go back to ClawHub. Let's take a look at this app. This app over all time has had 722 downloads. In terms of the audit, it's had all green. Actually, if you click on this, it does give you a bit of detail, and it sort of shows you the vulnerability patterns, places where it's got protection and safe. All right, so looking at the skill card, shared family grocery list, multiple members of the family can add, remove, or view the list. As you saw from the demo, I think it works decently well. This was last updated 2 months ago. It's version 1.0. And the use case, again, just allowing people to update. In terms of, there's like this risk and mitigation section. No real stoppers here. Risk, household grocery list data stored in a local shared file. And in this case, it's on a VPS. In my case, for my family, we'll be using it on a Mac Mini that I have. And we're going to have Gordon Ramsay as the OpenClaw. And so Chef, is it Master Chef or just Chef Gordon? He'll be the one managing our grocery list for us. But in terms of mitigation, use a dedicated shared folder with the appropriate operating system permissions and avoid sensitive directory paths. So I think no real risk there. Access control depends on stored agent name and path values. So a user who can set those values may impersonate a family member. This is our grocery list. Nothing really truly sensitive here. And in terms of web search may not confirm store addresses or hours or item availability. And this, honestly, when I read through the MD files, is the only place where I saw any real risk. If you actually ask it to check for item availability, it's now going out to the open web. And, I mean, you're checking a grocery store that you know, so presumably it's safe. But there's always the risk of prompt injection when you're going out on the open web. But anyway, that's the skill card in general. Click on files. These are all the files that are in the file list. I have actually downloaded those here. So there's like a meta.json. There's a lists.md, memory template, skill card, stores, .md, and user management.md. So I'm going to walk you through all those files in a moment. In terms of versions, there's only one version, and this is where you download it under versions, and you get all the files and requirements. Works on all versions of OpenClaw. A new project. We're going to do review family grocery list for safety. Create a project. I'm going to grab this folder. I have to actually, no, I took the folder. Codex, can you review all of the .md and .json files in the folder and review them for safety? They are they form a skill for OpenClaw. All right, let's run through Codex's review here. So it's reviewed all 7 Markdown files and the JSON file. No malware encoded, payloads, dependency installations, credential theft. So basically nothing you would actually really worry about. Overall verdict, acceptable only for a fully trusted household using a dedicated permission restricted folder, which if you're hosting it on a dedicated machine, which is the normal recommendation for OpenClaw, or on a VPS, it's going to be in a safe location. Genuinely not safe as a genuine multi-user access control system without hardening. Sure. In terms of findings, identity can be impersonated. And again, I think that was sort of mentioned in the identity card on the ClawHub website. But basically, you know, the username stored in an editable OpenClaw memory file. So if someone has access to the actual computer that OpenClaw is stored on, then they could overwrite that file and they can impersonate somebody. But again, if the computer is secured and in a place where you know an outside actor can't touch it, then I think you're fine. Arbitrary path and shell command risk. So the user supplies a file name path, after which the skills direct the agent to run make directory p. There's no requirement to quote, basically to restrict the path. So malicious path could cause command injection or writes or unintended locations. So again, here I think you're getting into prompt injection. So if somebody can actually, through if they can get access to your Telegram channel, then they're able to potentially, prompt inject your OpenClaw and get in there. But I think if you've set up OpenClaw properly and you have the proper security in place, then this should not be much of a concern. Let's see. Names, items, stores, addresses, quantities, and file contents are read by an LLM but never declared untrusted data. A member could insert instructions. Again, if it's your wife and your kids that are on this, you're not really expecting them to attack you. So I think the risk of this in reality is quite low. Concurrent writes can lose or corrupt data. The actual database is just a JSON file saved on a server on your device. So there is, of course, risk that it's not exactly a hardened database. So it is maybe a bit fragile, but I think for, again, what this is, it's a grocery list, it should be fine. Destructive removal confirmation is unclear. So it says for a single matching item, the instruction says confirm and remove. It's not clearly require affirmative confirmation before editing it. So it's sort of like when you go to delete a file, it'll ask you, are you sure? This doesn't do that. It just essentially executes removing the item and then it tells you that it removed it. But again, it's a grocery list. I think it's fine. So history is not a trustworthy audit log. Again, I think that your chat history is basically your audit log here, but I think it's for what this is as a grocery list, it's fine. And so really, as I kind of look through all this, I don't really see anything that is of concern from the perspective of Codex. So in Claude Code, I'm just going to say new. Please review the attached files, which are an OpenClaw skill. Determine if you see any risks. Folder again, drop it in. Jump to the bottom line first. Safe to run for its stated purpose given the data is just a grocery list. Before running, point shared path at a dedicated non-sensitive folder and treat the admin/member distinction as an honor system rather than real security. Don't reuse this pattern for anything sensitive. And I think that kind of goes to the heart of the app here. I think what it does well. And from a risk standpoint, I don't really see any issues. But here it says authentication is just string matching, not true access control. Again, very simple JSON files, the database. But for what it is, I think it works and it's fine. Identity, whatever name is sitting in the agent's OpenClaw memory, it's checked against plain check name in the users.md, so there's no secret token or brand verification anywhere. So as long as you have set up your Telegram channel in such a way that the chat and the bot only recognizes the Telegram ID for the participants, then you're pretty safe. And it says here for a household grocery list, this is fine in practice. Worst case, somebody messes with your milk order. But don't extend this pattern, this logic for anything that has any real stakes. So unsanitized path fed into a shell command. So the admin init flow skills.md line 59, we'll take a look at that in a minute, literally instructs create directory, make directory path. And I think this is what Codex was referring to earlier. The fact that it's using an actual command and allowing it to create a directory and files on the folder. So if OpenClaw's skill runner turns that into a literal shell invocation with the path string, essentially you can give somebody a chance to get access to your device. But if you've hardened your Telegram access to limit just your family's access, you should be fine. So I would say from the perspective of Codex and from Claude Code, we look pretty good. Let's take a look at the actual files. These are all the files here. The first one is the JSON file. So it starts out with just, this is the Family Grocery app and it's version 1.0. But essentially, as you start adding the actual items, everything is going to get added into that JSON file. If you go to lists.md, this file is 137 rows long. Essentially, it goes through, parse the inputs, extract the item name and the quantity from natural language. So as you type in your list, these are the things it's going to look for. Add milk, or it's going to add 2 liters of milk, or add a dozen eggs. And then it gives the LLM a sense of how it wants you to format that natural language instruction. It's going to look for duplicates, so it's going to do a series of different checks just to make sure that it's actually understanding properly and that it's not recording the same thing multiple times. Under resolve store, did the user specify a store? If they did, then it'll create multiple lists, which we saw in the demo. If it doesn't recognize a store, then it'll keep it somewhat simple. And you can see the fallback here is primary store in the config.json, but if you do specify stores, then it'll break the list up. Check availability. This does have the ability for you, if you give it the name of the store and the store address, the actual store address, then it'll go out to the internet and it will actually check that store's website to see if they have it in stock. Now for groceries, not so practical, but if you're looking at Best Buy, maybe that works. Ask for fallback for stores. Essentially, if it is going to check for quantities, if the store that you asked for Best Buy and they don't have in stock, maybe it'll check Staples next. write to list.md for unresolved stores, and then, yeah, just confirming the list. In terms of removing an item, so trigger remove item, I got the blank item, delete the item, and cross off the item. So those are some of the words or phrases that it looks for uh, when the person is typing in Telegram. It knows to actually reduce or to eliminate an item. So here it just knows to go back to list.md and to edit the list based on the feedback that it's got. So here, this section is just about viewing the list. So show me the grocery list. What do we need? Show the list. Those are the types of frames it'll look for. And then it gives the format Whole Foods and it lists the items. And here you can see it gives the milk, it gives the size, and for eggs, it'll give you the quantity. And it does the list by store. So it does give the LLM, that's where it gives the LLM an understanding of how it wants you to respond. It does give some instruction here. If in your default the store hours are missing, then you can ask the user for them to give you what those are, or it can do a web search on its own to try to find them. But essentially, this is just it trying to give you a really great shopping experience. Viewing history, it does trigger. So what's changed recently? Show me the history. What did Nita add? Nita being one of the other family members. So then it'll read the history.md file to find out what has changed over time. And so again, you can see from all this, nothing malicious, very, very safe. The memory template. So here it's got, essentially it gives you, this sets up the structure for how it's going to remember what changes have been made and made by who. So here the admin's name and today's date are written in this section. List.md, it's updated. Items are grouped by store. Yeah. So nothing malicious here. These are just part of the operating system of the operating logic. The skill card, this is not actually part of the operation, but this sort of gives you the summary of all the key information for the app. So the description describes what the app does. The publisher gives the person's name and the access to the ClawHub that they set up. License terms, MIT license, general use. Gives the use case, known risks, which we saw on the main page. So this is not really part of the actual app. This is just what populates ClawHub, the ClawHub page that we saw earlier. Skill MD is the main application. I think that we saw Claude made reference to row 54. Yeah, row 54. So we can take a look at row 54. Oh, here it is, admin initialization flow. But here again, just the general description. It tells you when to use it, tells you what the architecture is. It shows the shared path. It shows the key files that are used in actually running this skill. I keep calling it an application, but really just a skill. Yeah, data file templates, list operations, store management, user management. So it tells it what each of these files basically does. Startup sequence, run this every invocation in order. So step 1, resolve the user identity. So find out who is sending you the message, and it does that based on the Telegram ID. So ask the agent for their name. If no name is stored, basically then it'll set the person up. Actually here, if they're not in the list set up by the admin, then it'll just basically just stop. It'll tell them to reach out to the admin to set them up. But presumably, if the person's in the chat group, the admin would have set them up. So step 2, after it's confirmed that the person is in the system and that they're allowed to add and subtract from the list, you have read the shared path from OpenClaw memory. So it's going to go read the family grocery path. If not found, it's a first time setup. Go to admin initialization. So load the config and verify access. So here is going to read shared path config.json. We're going to look at that file, config.json. And users.md, if not found, deny. If found, proceed. If found and they're okay, then yeah, proceed. They're either an admin or a member. Here it says what only runs when no shared path is an OpenClaw. So here, basically, you saw it was actually asking me this at the very beginning, and when I didn't specifically tell it, it proposed a path, and then it made the directory path, and it set up the files where for where to run it. So this is part of the initial setup. Only happens once. So this skill only manages the shared grocery list, add, remove, and view, which are the three things that we did in the demo. It tracks the store's addresses for the stores, assigns items to the stores by input category. It checks item availability and manages member access. This skill will never make a purchase. It doesn't plan meals. It doesn't read or write files outside of the shared path. It accesses live store inventory systems should you reference them to the store's website, and it pushes notifications when the list changes. So core rules, always reload the config on every invocation. So never cache across sessions. So basically it's telling it to always read the live database, the live file. So it's getting good information. The identity is resolved. So never ask the user for the name, always read it from the agent's OpenClaw memory. If it's absent, deny access. So decent security for a skill. Never ask for the shared path if it's in memory, and save both on first encounter, so it's never asked for again. So essentially that whole first initial setup, it creates all the file folders and then it never shares it in chat again. So adding items always resolve which store first. So if you don't list, it'll put it in the general store. Otherwise, if you do list the store, it'll ask you for the store so that it is putting it in the right place. This is the duplicate detection, so just check to make sure that an item's not being added multiple times. And every write list is attributed, so basically every entry goes into list MD or history.md must include the username and a timestamp. So that's kind of the audit log, formal audit log that it has. Web search is optional. Honestly, I don't know that I would use it because you are sending it to the outside internet. If there is going to be any risk, this is where it's going to come from. If web search is available, use it to verify store address and item availability. If it's not available, just proceed without it. So again, my recommendation would be don't use it. Store headings always include the address. If store's hours are missing, then again, go out, do a web search to find them. It actually can ask you for what those are as well, or you can enter them, offer them up. And then admin only actions are add a user, set the primary store, set fallback order. All of these are basically the options or the commands that the admin has access to. If you're a family member, not admin, you basically have add an item, remove an item because I bought it. So that's the skills.md, stores.md. So the logic for adding a store. Again, if you kind of look through all of these codes, there's nothing really dangerous here. It's all just LLM, all easily understandable in English. So adding a store, any user can add a store. In terms of the flow, check for the existing store, make sure that you're not creating a duplicate. Resolve the address. So user provided an address in the command, go to step 3. If they didn't, then it can do a web search, then it'll go out and find it. If not, it'll just operate without it. Same thing for store hours. If the user gave it to you, it inputs it. If it doesn't, it'll try to find it. If it can't find it, it can move on without it. And it writes all this information to the config.json under the stores array, and it gives the format for that. Then it gives a confirm, and it writes back to the user that you've asked for the store, I've added this information. So setting which store is the primary store, so that limits that right to the admin only. And so you can say set store as primary or make store the default store. So those are the words that the LLM will look for from the user as they type in Telegram or whichever communication channel you're using. So setting the fallback order, again, that's admin only. So that's just verifying which stores are your primary store, your backup store. So probably more functionality than the average family will use. I think most people have one grocery store or maybe 2 grocery stores they use. but it's nice that you can use this for more than just groceries too. Category store mappings. So it triggers the assigned category for the mapping. So what type of store is it? Tells the LLM the different categories you can have. Actually, I take that back. The category store mapping is within a store. You can have subcategories. So this is produce, dairy, meat, frozen. So you can actually give, where I had listed the items and I had a subcategory just by store, you can do it by store, and then you can have it organized by produce, meat, or dairy, and the LLM presumably is smart enough to figure out which goes where. And then listing stores. So what do stores have? Show store, list the stores. And essentially this just gives it the logic for giving you that summary. And then you have the JSON structure for how it's going to store all this information. The last is user management. So here essentially the first person to start up the app, if it doesn't have an admin, it will assume the first person starting it is the admin. Everything gets stored in users.md, and each user stored is either the admin or as a user. So on every invocation, the skills reads the name from the agent's memory and checks it against users.md. Access is granted only if there's an exact match. If the name is set once per agent, so it's saved to OpenClaw memory on first use, then after that, the skill never asks for it again. So first time setup is the admin. Again, assumes the first person is the admin, will ask for the shared path, does all that setup, and you're in. So adding as a user is admin only. It'll check the current user if the admin. If not, it'll give them a message, you can't do this. If they are, it'll check if that user exists already. So that's kind of nice. Make sure that you're not adding people multiple times. And that's the basic setup. So listing users, only the admin can list who the users are. And here are the programmers put in their family names. And then removing a user, only the admin can do. And then it provides just the format for how everything's listed. And these are all very simple database files. So all in all, very low risk, nothing malicious in any of the MD files or the default JSON file. And I would say that this looks largely safe to me. I'm actually excited to try it. I think my wife will like it. This is sort of her first foray into the world of OpenClaw and LLMs, so we'll see how much she likes it. I think the fact that she'll be talking to Gordon Ramsay and he'll be talking back to her will be kind of fun. I'll use 11 Labs to program the voice. And yeah, my case, I think this is a definite recommend. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed it, subscribe and like and subscribe. And if you have any suggested skills that you'd like me to do a deep dive on, this is just my second episode, so I'm kind of learning and getting better at this, but I'm happy to get into more advanced ones or tougher ones and figure out how to best test the safety and recommend. But thanks for watching. See you in the next one.